People thought it was just an aggressive stray, but this dog wasn't protecting the bench. It was protecting something much deeper. It was the kind of winter that makes the world go quiet. Streets emptied early. Birds stopped singing. Even the wind seemed too tired to move. In a small town, the kind where everyone knows everyone, there was a park that families used to love. A place where children played in summer, where old couples walked hand in hand in the fall, where teenagers sat on the grass pretending not to care about anything, while secretly caring about everything, where fathers pushed strollers on Sunday mornings, and elderly men played chess near the fountain, and the smell of popcorn from the small cart by the gate drifted through the air like a promise. It was that kind of park, the kind that holds a town's whole heart inside it. But this winter, something was different. At the far end of the park, near the oldest oak tree, a tree so old no one alive could remember who had planted it, sat a single wooden bench, faded green paint, worn armrests, a small crack down the backrest, the kind of bench that looked like it had absorbed every season, every conversation, every quiet moment that had ever happened on it. A bench that had seen decades of life pass by, and beside it sat a dog. Not a puppy, not a pet on a leash. A medium-sized brown dog with tired eyes and matted fur, sitting in the snow alone, as if he had been there for a very long time. No collar, no owner in sight, just the dog, and the bench, and the cold. At first, people didn't pay much attention. A stray dog in a park wasn't unusual. Someone would call the shelter eventually. That's what they thought. But on the third day, something strange happened. A young woman, bundled in a red scarf, walked through the park on her lunch break. She spotted the bench, empty, quiet, and moved toward it, just to sit for a moment. The dog's head snapped up. His body went rigid. And before she could even touch the armrest, he was on his feet, barking, growling, his teeth showing, his whole body shaking with warning. She stumbled back, startled, and hurried away. People nearby turned to look. "That dog is dangerous," someone muttered. "Someone should remove it." But the next day, it happened again. An elderly man, slowly making his way through the park, spotted the bench and decided to rest his tired legs. The moment he reached out his hand, the dog erupted, barking, lunging, standing between the man and the bench, like it was guarding something sacred. The man backed away, shaken and confused. Word spread quickly in a town this small. "There's a wild dog in the park," people warned each other. "Don't go near the old bench by the oak tree." Children were steered away. A mother pulled her little boy back by the hood of his coat. A jogger changed his route entirely. Day after day, the same scene played out. Person approaches. Dog reacts. Person retreats. And then, silence. The dog would return to his spot, lie down in the snow next to the bench, and wait. He waited through gray mornings and ink-dark evenings. He waited when the sleet came sideways and the wind bit hard. He waited on the nights when the temperature dropped so low that even the hardiest creatures found shelter. Yet there he was, at the bench, in the cold, waiting. By the end of the first week, the town was divided. Some said the dog was dangerous, feral, unpredictable. The park authority received complaints. "It's a liability," one official said. "We have to remove it." Others weren't so sure. A few neighbors left food near the bench. Not too close, just enough to see if the dog would eat. He did, carefully, quickly, and then returned to his post. "He's not rabid," said one woman who'd watched from a distance. "He's not random. He's guarding something. But what?" Nobody could answer that. A teenager filmed him once, posted it online. For a day or two, the video circulated. Comments split down the middle. "Remove it. It's dangerous. Leave it alone. Look at its eyes. That's not rage. That's grief." But comments on a screen are easy to write. Being in that park, in that cold, watching that dog, that was something else entirely. Then came Officer Daniel Mercer. Daniel had been on the town's small police force for 11 years. He dealt with noise complaints and lost cats and teenagers, making trouble near the fountain. He had seen the video too, and he had heard the complaints. He was not a man easily shaken. But something about the report of this dog bothered him. Not in a dangerous way, in a sad way, a way he couldn't explain, a way that kept him awake on Tuesday night, staring at the ceiling while his house settled around him. So one cold Tuesday morning, instead of sending animal control, he decided to go himself. He brought a thermos of coffee, a folding chair, and nothing else. He set up 20 feet away from the bench, sat down, poured his coffee, and watched. The dog noticed him immediately, stood, stiffened, gave one short, sharp bark. Daniel didn't move, didn't speak, just sat, hands wrapped around his thermos, watching. After a few minutes, the dog sat back down, still watching Daniel, but no longer barking. They stayed like that for over an hour. Two figures in a snow-covered park, studying each other. The town moving on around them, a bus passing on the road outside the gate, a church bell ringing twice in the distance, and those two completely still. Daniel came back the next day, and the day after that. Each time he sat a little closer. Each time, the dog watched him, cautious, guarded, but never charged. On the fourth day, Daniel spoke for the first time. Not a command, not a call, just a quiet voice, almost to himself. "Hey boy, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to understand." The dog's ears moved, just slightly. Daniel noticed something else that day too. The dog didn't pace like an aggressive animal would. He didn't prowl. He settled. He rested. He only rose when someone came near the bench, as if the bench itself were a living thing he had sworn to protect. By the fifth day, Daniel was close enough to see something he hadn't noticed from a distance. The dog had a worn patch of fur on his left side, not from a fight, from leaning, the kind of wear that comes from lying against something. Over and over and over again. Something soft, something warm, something that was no longer there. And for the first time, Daniel felt a weight settle in his chest. "What happened to you?" he whispered. The dog looked at him, and in those tired, patient eyes, Daniel saw something that had no name, but that every human being, in some quiet moment of their life, has felt before. Loss. Pure, uncomplicating, total loss. It was on a Thursday, 12 days after Daniel first came, that everything changed. That morning, the snow was heavier than usual. The park was completely empty except for the two of them. Daniel arrived to find the dog behaving differently. Restless, circling the bench, whimpering softly in a way Daniel had never heard before. And then, for the first time, the dog moved away from the bench. Not far, just a few steps, but he looked back at Daniel, and then back at the bench. "What is it?" Daniel said quietly, rising from his chair. He moved forward slowly. The dog didn't bark, didn't growl, just watched him approach and then stepped aside. Daniel crouched down beside the bench, and that's when he saw it. Tucked underneath, pressed against the back leg of the bench, and half buried in the snow, a small bundle. He reached in carefully and pulled it out. An old wool blanket, dark gray, fraying at the edges, the kind that's been washed so many times. It's more memory than fabric. And wrapped inside it, a leather collar, small, brown, cracked with age. A metal tag, dulled by weather, still readable. "Max. If found, call George." A phone number, local. Beside the collar, a photograph, laminated, but still worn at the corners. A man, 70s, maybe older, white hair, deep-set eyes, a wide, easy smile, the kind of smile that takes a lifetime to earn. And sitting right beside him on this very bench, the dog, both of them squinting into the sun, both of them happy, wholly, simply, quietly happy. Daniel turned the photo over. On the back, in shaky handwriting, "Our bench. George, October 2021. Daniel sat in the snow for a long moment. He didn't move. He didn't speak. The dog had come to stand beside him now. Not threatening. Not guarding, just present. Looking at the photograph in Daniel's hands. As if he recognized it. As if he remembered exactly when it was taken. That warm October afternoon. The sun low. The leaves turning. George laughing at something. The world still whole. Daniel made some calls that afternoon. George Alderman, 74 years old. He had lived 3 blocks from the park his entire life. He had walked to this park almost every morning for 30 years. Always to the same bench. Always under the same oak tree. He had passed away 7 weeks ago. Quietly. At home. No family nearby. His neighbor, a kind woman named Ruth, had found him in his armchair by the window, as if he'd simply fallen asleep watching the street. His dog Max had been with him the day before he died. Ruth had taken Max in briefly, but he'd slipped out the door one morning and never came back. Everyone assumed he'd run away. He hadn't run away. He had come here. This wasn't just a bench. It was the last place Max had seen him. The last place they had sat together, side by side in the October sun, before the leaves finished falling, before the world went quiet, before everything changed. George used to bring 2 things to this bench every morning. A thermos of black tea. And Max, he would sit for an hour, sometimes more, just watching the park wake up. The dog beside him, nose lifted to the morning air, tail occasionally sweeping the old wood. They didn't need much. They had the bench. They had each other. They had all the mornings the world would give them. And then one morning the mornings stopped. For 7 weeks, through sleet and frost and freezing nights, Max had come back to the only place that still smelled like home. The only place that still felt like George. The wood of the bench. The iron of the armrests. The particular way the wind moved through that corner of the park. He hadn't been aggressive. He hadn't been dangerous. He had been faithful. In the most complete, heartbreaking way imaginable. He was keeping the bench for someone who was never coming back. Because nobody had told him. Nobody could. And so he waited. The way only a dog can wait. Without bitterness. Without confusion. With nothing but the pure and simple certainty that if he just stayed long enough, everything would be okay again. Daniel stayed until sunset that evening. He sat on the bench, and this time Max didn't bark. Max climbed up beside him, laid his head on Daniel's leg, and let out a long, slow breath, the kind that sounds like something finally being released, something held too tight for too long alone. Daniel put his hand on the dog's back and didn't speak. There was nothing to say. Some griefs don't need words. They just need someone to sit with them. Until the sun goes down. The story spread across the town within days. People who had been afraid of Max came back to the park, not to confront him, but to leave things. A fresh bowl of water. A warm blanket. Dog treats placed gently near the bench. One child left a drawing. A crayon picture of a dog and an old man sitting together. The sun a yellow spiral in the corner. The tree tall and green. Underneath it, in careful letters, "Good dog. He loved you." An older woman who had known George, his neighbor from years back, came and sat on the bench for a while. She didn't say anything. She just sat. And Max lay at her feet, still, as though he understood. The park, once avoided, became something else entirely. People started stopping, sitting, staying a little longer, talking to each other again. Neighbors who had passed each other for years without a word began to pause, to ask how things were going, to really listen to the answer, as if Max's quiet grief had reminded them of something they had forgotten in the rush of everything. What it means to be present with someone, really present, not half distracted, not counting the minutes, but fully, warmly, entirely there, before the chance was gone. Because that is the thing about presence. You never know which moment will be the last one. You never know when the ordinary morning becomes the morning you'd give anything to have back. George knew that bench. Max knew George. And somehow, in the cold and the quiet, the town learned it too. Max was eventually taken in by Daniel. It wasn't a difficult decision. Daniel had sat with that dog through snow and silence. and the kind of stillness that changes a person. You don't walk away from that. Max has a warm bed now, a full bowl, a yard with a gate. He has learned to trust again. Slowly, carefully, the way animals do when they have been through something. That has no easy name. He is safe. But every few days, Daniel takes him back to the park. They walk together in the early morning, before the town is fully awake, when the light is still soft and the air still clean, past the fountain and the chess tables and the popcorn cart, past the old oak tree whose roots have lifted the path slightly, making a small ridge that both of them step over, as if they have always done this together. And they sit, just for a while, on the faded green bench. Max always puts his nose to the wood, breathes in slowly, eyes half closed, ears soft, and then rests his chin on the armrest and looks out at the park, the way George must have looked at it on all those quiet autumn mornings, tea going cool in the thermos, the world still generous with time. And even now, even after everything, he still waits, not in grief anymore, in remembrance. There is a difference, and it matters. Grief is a storm you survive. Remembrance is the way you carry someone. After the storm has passed, it is gentler, it is steadier, it is the shape love takes, when there is nowhere left to go with it. But inward, Max carries George in the only way he knows how, by returning to the place where they were happy, by breathing in the memory of him, by being still in the spot where stillness once meant safety. Because some bonds don't break when someone leaves. They just change shape. They become the way you sit at a familiar bench, the way you tilt your head toward a warm memory, the way you love something, long after it's gone. Not loudly, not with ceremony, but faithfully, quietly, every single day. Max never forgot George. And because of Max, and the bench under the oldest oak tree, in the park at the heart of a small town, neither will we.